We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
They are strapped to a rocket with the explosive power of a small nuclear bomb. 4 intrepid crew members ready and willing to risk the thrill of a lifetime.
It's almost like riding a man-made earthquake.
3, 2, 1, 0.
The launch is one of the most dangerous parts of a shuttle mission. As we tragically learned in 2003, the re-entry will also test astronauts and the flight craft to the limit.
We are very much aware of the things that can go wrong.
This is a profession where the best in their fields compete for their chance to cheat death and fly to the heavens.
There's a small group of people who have a job like no other on Earth. That's because they don't work on Earth. High above our heads is a construction site in orbit, the International Space Station, Alpha. 11 European countries, together with Russia, Japan, Canada and Brazil, have come together to help the United States create a permanently manned outpost in space. Building the station is the most complex engineering task ever undertaken, one which makes extraordinary demands on the people involved. This film is about 4 of those people, the crew of Shuttle Mission 105. With unique access to the space program, we'll ride with them aboard Space Shuttle Discovery as they rendezvous with the space station, carry out vital construction work, and exchange its 3-person crew.
If you think about a space flight, it's like a camping trip. You take people, you lock them in a Winnebago, and you go away for 2 weeks, and you come back, and hopefully everybody's doing okay.
Leading our team into space is Air Force veteran Scott Horowitz. Scott is making his 4th flight on the shuttle, his first as commander.
Some people say they don't know what they want to be and everything, but I knew exactly what I want to be. I want to become an astronaut.
Scott's right-hand man is Marine Rick C.J. Sturko. He'll be piloting the shuttle for a 2nd time.
Well, the shuttle is a really fantastic flying machine. At the time of its design, it was so advanced, it was just the hottest thing going, and it still does a fantastic job.
He's a really go-get-em Marine, someone I can really depend on whenever I need anything done. I know that I can turn to CJ and it'll get done.
Mission Specialist Dan Barry is a veteran of 2 spacewalks. His experience will be vital during the mission.
I'm involved in the planning, the execution, and the choreography of the spacewalks. And when you're outside the space shuttle, the beauty of the Earth is absolutely unsurpassed.
Dan's a very interesting guy. He's a medical doctor as well as a PhD. One of these Renaissance kind of guys.
The final member of the crew is Patrick Forrester. He's making his first trip into space.
When you're ready to be assigned to your first mission, you don't care what your mission is, you don't care where it's going, you don't care who you're going with, you just want to fly in space.
One of the neatest things to have on a flight is somebody who hasn't done it before, or we call the rookie. You get to see it all over again through their eyes.
All 4 crew are family men. But for Pat Forrester's children and his wife Diana, a space mission is a whole new experience.
I would say it's important to know what my husband's doing and to get the boys excited about what Dad's doing. Really, it's a family thing, what we're all about to do. It's pretty special, I think.
Lisa Horowitz and Sue Barry have been here before. They know how demanding a mission can be.
Dan was in the same astronaut training class as Scott,
yeah.
So I guess we're old-timers.
Exactly.
When you are on a mission, everyone needs to work together in order to accomplish the mission.
There is a commonality there, and it is this intelligence, this enthusiasm, creativity, hardworkingness, sense of teamwork.
And this event here is to say thanks to everybody in the training team who worked so hard to try to train us. We know we're a tough group to train.
In terms of getting a space mission done, it's not one person, it's not one crew, it's a big group of people all coming together to be successful.
For the crew and hundreds of support staff, the climax of 12 months of intensive training is just days away.
Yes, lead. We're all here. We're ready to rock and roll. The 105 team has been a lot of fun for me, and I've got this really neat crew, and they are really, really focused on their mission.
Launch day. Scott, CJ, Pat and Dan are joined by their passengers, the new crew for the International Space Station.
You get in the Astro van and we look at each other, is this real? And you go, no, this isn't real yet. It just hasn't hit home yet that you're really going to go fly into space.
The crew exit the elevator up on the 195-foot level now. Now they're getting Pat Forrester there already in the white room. Scott's showing a sign for his daughter, Ariel.
They strap us in about 2.5 hours prior to liftoff, and you're laying, of course, flat on your back. It's not uncomfortable, but you just have this sense of, I wish we'd get on with it, we're ready to go.
The space station crew ride in the middeck, below the flight deck.
Pat was feeling so excited when he finally realized they were launching, and I imagine that his heart was just pounding out of his chest.
Commander Scott Horowitz gives Pat a welcome aboard there.
The crew are now alone. Their only contact with the outside world is with Launch Director Mike Leinbach, 3.5 miles away at Launch Control.
Well, the launch director is the final authority to give the go for launch, and that's my job, is to make sure that we don't launch until we're absolutely ready to. At T-minus 9 minutes, 9 minutes away from launch, I will stand up and look out the window at the launch pad and think about Doc Horowitz and the guys who are about to commit to that travel. I have to feel it in my gut that we're ready to launch that vehicle.
Mike is well aware that the crew are strapped to a rocket with the explosive power of a small nuclear bomb. If anything were to go wrong, he'd have to get them off the pad fast. Scott and the crew trained for an emergency pad evacuation less than a month ago.
We don't ever expect to use it, but in the event that there's some type of catastrophe, a fire, an explosion or something, where we don't have time to go down the elevators, we can get in this basket and it'll bring us all the way down here. At what point we can get out and get in this bunker here for protection.
But the bunker is only a few hundred yards away from the pad, and the crew might well need to put more distance between themselves and an exploding shuttle. So they're all trained to drive an armoured personnel carrier as fast as possible to a nearby helipad, where they can be flown out of danger.
They can go up to, I believe, about 35 miles per hour, so just pretty fast for a personnel carrier. It sort of operates like controls on a tank. It's got little sticks in there, and you pull it to the side you want it to turn towards, and see it's got tracks on it. It doesn't have a real tight turn radius, and it could use some power steering, but other than that, it's pretty fun to drive.
On the actual day, all goes well, and at Launch Control, Mike Leinbach continues the countdown.
Okay, Doc. We wish you good luck on your mission and farewell.
Thank you very much. Debrief, close and lock your visors. Everybody, tabs clear. Get those visors down.
T-minus 10, 9.
It seems like, well, this is happening pretty quickly now.
And then the engine's light.
7, 6. We have engine start.
There you go. Engine start.
And there is no doubt in your mind that this is real. And it's this amazing sensation that is hard to put into words. It's almost like riding a man-made earthquake.
We're 100.
The vehicle starts to shudder and shake as the main engines light off, producing 1 million pounds of thrust.
3, 2, 1. Booster ignition.
And then the solid rocket boosters light. And then there's no doubt in your mind you're going somewhere.
There's a sharp jolt.
And this 4 million pound vehicle literally just leaps off the pad. The overall power that is released is just unbelievable.
Looks good.
And liftoff of Discovery.
Houston Discovery, roll program.
And nice thing about the pilot is you get a window seat. And you can see the coastline spin by and off it goes into orbit.
What a view!
The view may be amazing, but the crew know they are riding a controlled explosion into space. The next 8.5 minutes will be the most hazardous of their entire mission.
Here we go. Engines look good.
With Space Shuttle Discovery's 2 huge solid rocket boosters ignited and 3 main engines at full throttle, the crew begin their bone-jarring ride into orbit.
That looks good. That's very nice.
The whole cockpit is really vibrating, there's a lot of noise, and we're supposed to be monitoring the instruments, and the instruments are shaking so much it's difficult to actually read the indications on them.
The roll maneuver is complete. Houston is now controlling.
At liftoff, responsibility for the flight is handed over from Kennedy Space Center to Mission Control, Houston. Here, the lives of the crew are in the hands of Flight Director John Shannon and his team.
Well, for me, ascent is the most critical. It's the most dynamic phase. You've got the big solid rocket boosters, the main engines, and the people we have in this room, they're really the crack troops that can respond quickly in any kind of an emergency.
Ken Cockrell will act as one of the capsule communicators, Capcom for short. He'll talk directly to the crew during the flight.
There certainly is an atmosphere, an electric atmosphere of anticipation for doing everything exactly right, because you have the lives of 7 folks riding on that vehicle.
During ascent, there are many things that could go wrong in quick succession, so it's vital the crew and Mission Control are trained to respond to the unexpected. For months before the mission, the crew have practiced for ascent in the shuttle simulator. Behind the scenes, their trainers continually throw problems at them. Trainers like John Nader.
I've known the crew for quite some time now, and we've been working together for the past about 9 months or so. So we're pretty good friends now.
And whose fault would it be when this fails? John Nader.
Aboard the simulator, the crew have no idea what's in store for them. The man who does is trainer Michael Grebois.
Everybody thinks they're going up into orbit, up into space, where they're going to go do their mission with the space station. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to make it possible to do that. We're going to fail some engines and make it so they have to come back.
Engine start. 3 to 100.
It's not just the crew who are in the dark.
Liftoff confirmed. Copy liftoff.
The problems will also be a nasty surprise for John Shannon and his team in Mission Control.
Houston Discovery, roll program. Copy roll.
And our first malfunction is going to come in at about 45 seconds after liftoff. We're going to mess with an engine.
At this critical point, a shuttle needs to temporarily throttle down its 3 main engines to 72% thrust, reducing the stresses on the spacecraft as it goes supersonic.
Throttle in.
Throttling. 372.
During this time, what normally happens is the engines are throttling down to keep the pressure down, and then we have to throttle up when we're out of that region. Well, if we put in our failure when the engines are throttled down, that means they cannot throttle back up again, and you're left with an engine that's running at only 2/3 of capability.
Go at throttle up.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hydraulic on the left, nothing else.
Flight booster's left engine is stuck in the bucket, stuck at 72%. 72%, copy. Fighter, you got it? Fighter got it. We see the left engine stuck in the bucket at 72%.
Well, it's more difficult to make it into orbit with 2 2/3 engines. The people in Mission Control have to think about, do we have enough thrust capability to make it up into orbit?
Discovery, Houston, we want you.
Despite one faulty engine, Mission Control instructs the crew to press on.
Thank you.
Mach 4.
And so in the cockpit, Scott and CJ are thinking, "Whew, we made it. If this is the worst that's going to happen, we're going to be fine." Well, unfortunately, it's not the worst that's going to happen.
Center engine.
Taking down the center engine. Center engine's down.
Center engine out.
Center engine out. We're showing center engine down.
You can't get up into space on 1 2/3 engines, and so we have to declare an RTLS or return to launch site.
1 2/3 RTLS.
Yes.
Looking for man throttle to max throttle. Copy. RTLS.
With only one of Discovery's engines at full throttle, the crew have no choice but to attempt a landing back at the Kennedy Space Center.
Left RC message, GNC. No action flight.
Shuttle is making a pitch maneuver. That's the most dangerous part.
Well, we're going to be down one forward and one right, so I think we're in good shape. You can lose one jet forward. Yeah.
Left on. Survey says.
Ah, you're lucky.
Man.
I think we got it.
Switch.
Until finally coming back and land at KSC.
Despite the efforts of John Nader and the team, the crew survive this training exercise.
Houston, Discovery's wheel stop.
They'll fly another 4 simulations before lunch.
And all flight controllers back to flight loop.
Man, I have not executed that block on the card in a long time.
Okay. Everything that just happened that you just saw was John Nader's fault. Thank you very much.
You just even try to touch the man. What will he say?
Get your hands off it. Don't touch it.
We're like this. CJ and me, we're like this.
Go and throttle up. Discovery, go and throttle up. Copy. Go and throttle up.
During the actual ascent of Mission 105,
Everything looks good.
all of Discovery's engines perform flawlessly.
And Discovery's 3 liquid-fueled main engines are now back at full throttle, 104% of rated thrust.
And then the solid rocket boosters use up all their fuel. The accelerations drop off a little bit, and you go, oh, and then boom, there's a loud explosion. And the solid rocket boosters come off.
Everybody SRBs. Copy SRB set.
And then the ride actually gets very smooth, and the acceleration just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. And you're watching your instruments go by. There goes another 1,000, another Mach number, another Mach number. There's 12, 13, 14, 15. Every second, you're going another 100 feet per second.
And as we go up higher and higher, eventually the commander calls down and says, "Congratulations, welcome to space. We're at 50 miles." Because 50 miles is the mark at which you become an astronaut.
Very all right. Congratulations, Pat.
In 8 minutes and 30 seconds, the main engines kick off, and then there's this boom, loud explosion that scares you again because the external tank comes off.
Oh, that's a nice shot right there.
Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And now you are in space. It's just incredible. And it all happens in 8.5 minutes.
All right.
So space just isn't that far away.
For Dan Barry, every arrival in orbit is a magical moment.
My first objective was to see the Earth from above the sky. So I took just a minute, just go up to the windows and make sure we were really there. And that's a moment that will be in my memory forever.
From their vantage point 250 miles above the Earth, the view is spectacular. But there is little time for sightseeing. The next objective is to dock with the space station.
Houston, Discovery, Tally-Ho, ISS, Station Alpha.
Commander Scott Horowitz has spotted the International Space Station.
The space station, International Space Station, is a permanent manned outpost in space. And we will be doing all kinds of experiments and studying the effects of living in space in order to get ready for the next step, which is to explore the solar system and go beyond.
Discovery Alpha. Alpha Discovery, go ahead, Jim. Hey, we hear you loud and clear. We tried to make a comm check with you a little while ago and didn't hear you. Good to hear your voice so strong. Yeah, we have you coming in loud and clear also, and we're on our way.
Both craft are traveling at 17,600 miles an hour. But for a safe docking, the speed between them must be just inches a second.
And you have a go to proceed within 400 feet.
Copy, thank you.
One whole run, I think, is going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
The crew have trained for docking in the dome simulator back on Earth. This sophisticated piece of equipment projects an overhead view as the shuttle approaches the station.
Okay, are you ready, Doc? Ready. Here we go.
The mating of two multi-ton spacecraft requires a team effort.
Step 5, I see it.
Doc and CJ fly the shuttle. Dan keeps a constant eye on speeds and distances between the two spacecraft, and Pat ticks off the checklist.
Houston Discovery, we're ready to initiate final approach.
A collision could prove fatal.
We're happy.
Looks really good. Let's add one more closure pulse.
Yeah.
Scott fires small thrusters, gently easing the two spacecraft together.
We can probably take another B left if you...
Here comes 1B left. Looking good.
As ever, a team of trainers is there to make sure things don't run smoothly.
16. 8.
Dan calls out the final inches.
4. Fire.
Unbeknownst to the crew, the trainers have programmed a failed docking.
And looks like we bounced
no capture.
Okay,
pedals.
PDS.
Standing by.
Protection. I see the light.
The crew must react swiftly. Damage to the delicate docking system could mean the space station would have to be abandoned.
Very good.
We're clear now.
Okay, is the ISS in free drift?
I see the lights on
Solid
steady.
lights.
Okay, so Houston Discovery, we got a no capture, and we're backing out.
Discovery, Houston copies, failed capture. We'd like you to back out to 30 feet, station keep while we look at the problem.
We'll do it.
The trainers are very sneaky, and it caught us kind of by surprise, which is really good training because when a real emergency happens, you're not going to be expecting it. So that's actually the best training, when they're sneaky enough to slip one in that we weren't expecting, and then we have to react as if we would, in real life.
Here we are. You can see Space Station Alpha is viewable in the overhead window.
And go for docking.
It's 1 degree high right now. Good position. Okay. Looking good, Doc. Coming down nicely.
Pass center, bring it back to the left.
6 feet separating Discovery and the International Space Station.
Very nice, Doc.
And here it comes down to just less than a foot from docking.
Really nice. 8 inches. 4 inches. Fire.
And the light says capture.
Capture confirmed.
Is the ring aligned light on right now?
It is not.
It is not?
No.
They've captured the station, but a spring has got stuck and the docking mechanism is not correctly aligned. The final mating of the two craft is in jeopardy.
Go for ring retract.
Pat, ring in, push button, push.
And we're going to watch it. If it doesn't get there, we'll go to step 5.
And we copy. Force alignment.
Okay, here it comes.
If you couldn't dock, that would have been it.
The good news, flight. Looks like the ring has aligned itself.
Okay.
Very nice. Good job.
So we were very relieved and very happy when we got a good, successful docking.
With Discovery safely docked to Alpha, Scott is given the go to open the airlock hatch.
Ready? How did that pull this over, right?
The current Alpha crew have been on the space station for almost 6 months.
Hi, guys! Hey, guys!
And naturally, they are delighted to see some new faces.
You ready for visitors? You're ready, my friend. All right, let's go to station. On board. Pat, how are you?
CJ!
We're getting. How are you? Okay.
Good morning to the crew of Discovery, and especially Pat from his sons.
Good morning, and I'd like to thank my sons, Patrick and Andrew, for a great song. It's almost like waking up at home. Space is great. Thoroughly enjoying being up here.
It's every rookie's dream to get a chance to, number 1, fly in space, number 2, do a spacewalk, and number 3, operate the robotic arm. And the opportunity to do all three on one mission is really, it's a blessing. It is.
This may be Pat's first flight, but today the mission depends on him. He has to attach a container of supplies to the space station.
Leonardo being very carefully maneuvered out of Discovery's payload bay. At the controls of the shuttle's robotic arm, mission specialist Pat Forrester.
It's much like when you bring a moving van from one house to another. It's got clothing on it, it's got food on it, the equipment and science that those folks that we're leaving on space station are going to need to live with.
Houston, we over Italy where Leonardo was made.
With the shuttle docked to the space station, Pat can't actually see the container. He's effectively flying blind.
We're up to 56 degrees. Okay. How much of the roll's out of the way?
He and Scott have trained to use the cameras on Discovery's robotic arm and in the payload bay to see what they're doing.
And about 5 feet left in X.
65 and steady, so that rate of roll is perfect to hold it steady. In fact, it's coming down.
And I think to myself, you know, one of these days, this isn't going to be a sim. This is going to be the real thing.
That, what you're seeing there is the target we use.
Pat's training has paid off.
And we've got it installed, and congratulations all around. But the happiest people are going to be the Expedition 3 crew. Their food and future experiments will be on board here shortly. And here's the beginning of transfer. Today we found a particularly good technique for moving items with a bucket brigade.
In space,
good one.
Weightlessness makes the moving of heavy cargo a joy, and for Dan it's an amazing experience.
It's like you have a special ability. You are Superman. You are able to fly. And when you first do it, you're very clumsy at it. You push off way too hard. You tumble. You bang into things. But over the course of a day or two, you get pretty good. It was amazing. We had a tunnel that was about 20 feet long, and you could just shoot down this thing like it was a gun barrel and you were the bullet.
Whilst weightlessness is useful for some tasks in space, for others it can make life rather tricky.
You want to do the whole thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so foot-toe restraints down and locked. And release them like this. Check airflow. So what are we doing?
Remember the urinal funnels are color-coded?
Dan has got ear funnels in there too.
Those two giant ones on the top right.
Yeah. You know, we spend multiple hours in the simulators practicing emergency procedures and aborts and things that we hope we never have to use, and most likely we will not. However, the whole training flow included only one 30-minute class on how to use the toilet, and that is something that I'm going to do, without a doubt.
Simple.
He's got his pants on.
It's another big day for the 105 crew. There's construction work to be done on the space station.
Yeah, I'm all the way back.
For Pat and Dan, it will mean leaving the relative safety of Discovery to venture outside into the vacuum of space. Pat and Dan are in the airlock, preparing for their spacewalk, or EVA. They're going outside to fit an emergency backup unit to the space station's cooling system. It's designed to protect the crew on board Alpha from the huge temperature changes of space, where it can drop from the boiling point of water in the sun to minus 150 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade.
And we are ready to go to airlock egress.
We are very much aware, by being trained, of the things that can go wrong.
On Earth, there's only one way to train for a spacewalk, and that's to take to the water. Submerged in NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, is a full-sized mock-up of the space station stage where the 105 crew rehearse the hazardous task of installing the new unit.
I have listened to the stories about walking in space, and every time I go out of the hatch in the pool, I try to envision what it's going to be like in space. And just really excited, and I just can't wait.
Our pilot CJ is responsible for getting Pat and Dan ready.
One of the most important roles of the IV crew member is getting those guys in their suit and putting them out the door. And there's 218 steps that have to be done to put those guys in their suits and prepare them to go in the vacuum of space. And every one of those steps is absolutely critical. If I didn't get a glove fully latched, the waist ring was not secured properly, or their helmet came off, they could die very easily. It weighs on my mind as I'm getting them ready to go out the door.
Verify locked. EVA is demanding. You're out there for 6 to 8 hours. You're not going to have anything to eat. Fortunately, we have a very good training model right here on Earth. We go in there time after time after time, and by the time we're ready to go fly in space, the issues of endurance and strength are no longer a factor.
We're going to go to the Space Shuttle airlock, and we'll take your calls.
It's vital for the team to rehearse what they'll do during the spacewalk, though nothing can truly simulate zero gravity.
And CJ, the hatch thermal cover is open.
Very good.
When I go to space, I find it so much easier than when I train underwater. And if you're upside down, the blood still rushes to your head, so that's an uncomfortable position to be in. After 15 or 20 minutes, you start to get a headache.
All right, CJ, there's 18 turns on the forward port.
In space, it's very easy to turn upside down and get into the perfect position to do the task. So underwater, we make compromises with the positioning that we're going to get in. It's just as good as we can get. Slowly forward.
Scott's job is to use the robotic arm to move the cooling unit into position.
And occasional, if someone could look up at the two arm joints.
If I can get that thing twisted around forward, I can kick the arm away from the station.
Now it's up to Dan and Pat to fix the unit to the station and wire it up.
We need to do a left yaw. Okay, left yaw, here we go. Very nice, very nice. Hold what you got. I have got the pin locked.
Okay, very good.
But you're going to want us to hook up a connector in there.
But access proves difficult.
Use your left hand to reach in there, and that's the only way.
All right, well, let's try it.
Stand by just a second, we're going to talk about this.
How did we all of a sudden just invent this? So nobody picked it up until we figured it out during that time.
It's kind of crazy to do something like this.
This is the first time we've ever seen this, as you're probably picking up on, so we got to do some sorting out here.
Let's try it, let's see.
The team work on the problem to make sure it doesn't happen in space. 6 hours in the pool takes its toll on everyone.
Because the suit is inflated to about 4.3 pounds per square inch, it's trying to keep your arms apart and it's trying to keep your fingers apart. So whenever you hold on to anything, you're squeezing a pressurized glove, and after hours and hours, your hands are going to get tired.
Yeah, it got a little numb, because the palm bar was pressing right on that
Looks like the nails are okay, though.
Yeah.
Good.
There you go.
Man, this
I
hits the
need a
spot.
kiss.
Oh, you bet.
Great job keeping my feet up.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Hey, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
See, you ought to get her to be your IV, and then you get this kind of service.
If I could, I would.
Yeah.
You offering to switch?
No.
Good, good. Everything went well.
This is Mission Control Houston. Commander Scott Horowitz has powered up Discovery's robot arm in preparation for today's planned 6.5-hour-long spacewalk.
And the thermal cover is open. Copy, Dan, you can egress the airlock and translate to the RMS.
Yeah, he goes around this side. He's coming around the starboard side. That's where he's supposed to be.
Dan Barry, with the red stripes on his spacesuit, being gently maneuvered to allow a little more clearance room so that Pat Forrester can now join him on that 50-foot-long robotic arm.
I'm going to go this way to stay away from you. Very nice egress, Pat. Good job. You're well clear.
As Dan slowly maneuvers around the outside of the station, he makes a disturbing discovery.
It looks just like a debris hit, a crater around it.
He spotted what looks like the impact of a micrometeoroid.
We would like to know if it's just a surface hole or if it's gone all the way through.
There's no contamination, at least from inside or anything like that. It's just a bullet hole in the mirror.
And we copy that.
Imagine going 17,600 miles an hour that a very, very small particle can make a pretty good dent. The covering of their spacesuit has some protection. If we were hit by a small micrometeoroid, though, it could puncture and put a hole in it. It's something we're concerned about, so we try to keep the astronauts in positions where they're shielded by the shuttle.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm backing off. We're clear of the pin.
The two astronauts go to work on installing the emergency backup cooling unit.
Okay, Pat. Okay, now I want some right roll, just about 5 degrees. Pulse is going in about what magnitude? And now we have the pin there. We have to get it seated.
This is a really kind of tricky part right here.
Feels pretty rigid, like it doesn't want to move anymore. I've got it almost seated. Okay, let me put the pin in. Okay, guys, the pin is installed.
Okay, copy that.
We concur, great job.
We're soft dock, and the crew's going to be securing the boat with the power tool.
Copy that.
And DJ, I have closed all the TA clamps.
Houston, Dan has made all the connections.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the EVA, and we'll be watching you until you get in.
In Mission Control, Pat's wife Diana watches live pictures of her husband's first spacewalk.
This is Pat, and here's Dan. Just two guys going to work with their briefcase. It must be unbelievable. And I hope that they're not so focused on their work that they can't take in the views around them, because that is beautiful.
You get, first of all, just a sense of the artistic beauty. You can go from the lightest, brightest sky blue to the darkest, deepest midnight blue. The subtleties are amazing, and there's no photograph that will ever bring it back. It's just beyond what film could ever capture.
We need to pin up with it. Here comes Pat.
There he goes. Oh, this is good. This is good. I can see his face really well. Tell him to wave. Wave, Pat. Oh, that's good.
They have just flown over New Zealand, and they're now in the daylight. It's amazing.
In terms of actually doing the spacewalk, we are really busy. At least 90% of the time out there is focused on a very individual task that's very close to your face. And in that sense, it's very similar to our training in the pool. You get wrapped up in what you're doing, and you get the task done, and you move on.
Okay, I'm very happy now, and I'm ready for you to ingress the airlock.
I'm coming in.
Discovery Houston would like to extend an invitation to Pat to join the EVA Veterans Association.
Thank you.
Where's Pat? There he is.
You guys did good. Very nicely done. Alrighty. Now get all the suits and eat dinner. Beautiful.
So we have tea and coffee if you would like.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. I have cauliflower with cheese, so I'm eating very healthy, Mom. Don't worry.
After 11 days in orbit, it's time to undock and say goodbye to the new space station crew.
Goodbye, guys. Bye, guys. Счастливо.
There it goes. Pedals are clear. 4 out. You ready? Every 10 seconds. Here we go. See him firing. Yeah, look at that. Okay, there's 9 feet at point 1. Very nice.
The crew has put together a flight so far that they can be really proud of. They've done some very complicated things, and they've made it look very easy. It's been a real joy to see.
Our good ship that brought us supplies, arrivederci.
Thanks. Have a great mission. Thanks a lot, guys. See you later, and have a wonderful landing. You bet.
Back on Earth, Sue and Lisa eagerly await the return of their husbands.
The first thing I did when I woke up today was I looked out and I saw just an absolutely beautiful bright blue sky and almost no clouds, and I said, this is a great day for a shuttle landing.
Potentially there's some showers to the southwest of the approach.
But by afternoon, clouds have built up and rain threatens the shuttle's landing.
This is Mission Control Houston standing by for a final go, no-go decision for the deorbit burn.
On its final approach, Discovery is still travelling so fast that flying through a shower would severely damage its delicate heat-resistant tiles.
We're a little concerned about the cloud.
He flew through the cloud flight and picked up moisture on there, so that's precipitation echo.
With rain in the vicinity of the Kennedy Space Center, John Shannon has had to abandon the first landing opportunity.
Discovery Houston, we are still holding on our decision, so you do not have a go for the deorbit burn.
Copy all, Taco, thank you.
Don't think we'll see anything worse than what's out there now.
It's just the placement of what we got.
With time running out, everyone waits for John's decision.
Okay, and whether I intend to give him a go, does anybody else have anything to add to this decision? Okay, Taco, fire away.
Doc, we have forecast go condition at the Cape, so we're giving you a go for the deorbit burn.
Copy. Alright. So we are going home.
Scott and CJ must now guide Discovery back to the Cape as it plunges through the Earth's atmosphere at 25 times the speed of sound.
Alright, there you go, Pat. We're starting to slow down. We're just starting to enter the GC.
As Discovery leaves orbit, the crew start to feel the pull of gravity.
Yeah, look, there it goes. T-Mars building. Yeah, there we go.
There you go, that's G right there.
Coming back to re-enter the Earth is every bit as dynamic as launching. When you come back down through the atmosphere, fireballs start popping off the tail, like flash bulbs going off outside the shuttle. And you see the tail all lit up, hot red, and these great big balls of fire shooting off the tail. You can feel the heat.
Pat, that's the tail hitting the atmosphere.
Yeah, wow.
In fact, on my first flight, there were these violet, snappy kind of discharges. I asked Brian Duffy, is that supposed to happen? And at that point, he was getting busy, so he says, yes, it is. Leave me alone, I'm flying.
Unlike a normal plane, the shuttle has no power during re-entry. Scott and CJ are piloting a supersonic glider. It's the ultimate test of flying skill.
I got a good picture now. Very good. Okay, the main thing is not miss the turn. Big left turn, coming through 80,000 feet.
Long-range tracking cameras picking up the first image of the shuttle Discovery, 16 miles from the landing site. Discovery traveling 2.5 times the speed of sound, descending at a rate of 220 feet per second.
And you come out over the west coast of Florida, heading for the east coast of Florida, and you see the Space Center, you say, there is no way that we are going to get down. We are going to be in the Atlantic Ocean.
5.5 minutes from touchdown, Discovery soon to go subsonic as it approaches the landing site, heralding its arrival with a pair of double sonic booms a short time from now. Commander Scott Horowitz now beginning to execute an overhead left-hand turn of 242 degrees to align Discovery with runway 15.
This shuttle flies in some ways so badly that you drop from 150,000 feet right down to the ground almost in a heartbeat.
All right, stay with her. There we go. I see the river.
Traveling twice as fast as normal aircraft and with no power to control it, there is just one opportunity to get the landing right.
All right, runway in sight. Thank you, CJ. Starting to roll out. Very good. We'll wait his call. You make the call. Centering it up. I see one light. Okay, looks good. Houston Discovery, runway in sight. Boards, 30. 2000 pre-flare next. In the pre-flare, I'm the gear, I see the light. Armed, got a light. I'll get behind the pole. Stay with the pole. 1,308. Ball bar. Ball bar. 600, 500, 400. Gear down. Gear's coming. 200 through the threshold.
Sturco has dropped the landing gear.
Okay, a little high coming down. Coming on to the ballpark. Down. Going to the 8 point. 100, 250. Hold it down there, 70. 5240, 4230, 3225, 2210. Holding it up. Okay, shoot. Shoot. And do your rotating. Okay. Touchdown about 200.
Nose view touchdown.
Nose view touchdown.
Okay, the brake isoles are open.
Thank you.
There's 4 feet per second squared. I'm going to jettison at 60.
And the brakes out there. A little grabby, not
Okay.
too bad.
70, here comes 60. Away. Jettison. Ease it off. Nice job, Doc.
Thank you.
Man, that was beauty.
Houston Discovery is wheel stop.
Awesome, Doc.
Discovery Houston, ACO copies. Welcome home to all of you. It's great to have you back on Earth.
And then the realization that you're back in 1G on Earth hits you when you go to stand up. It's like a really bad case of sea legs getting from space back onto land.
I just want to say thanks to the whole team for a great mission. We're real excited to be back, and we want to thank everybody for an outstanding job.
Thanks to the dedication and hard work of tens of thousands of people, the mission went flawlessly. A new group of astronauts are already training for the next shuttle adventure. But for Scott and his crew, it's back to normality.
First thing I do when I get home from a space mission is like take out the trash and do a lot of menial tasks, that just haven't been done around the house. It's like you got home from work and you just have to get back to the daily routine of living.
This is Scott's first command of a space shuttle mission, and you'd never know it by the exceptional job he's done.
The people that you're with become very important to you. I was able to get a mission doing exactly what I want to do with the people that I want to fly with, and that really makes me happy.
It's really just an incredible thing. At one point, I had a chance to look down in the shuttle, see people inside the cockpit, and that's where really I took a minute just to pinch myself and say, I am really here.
It's so beyond your normal experience that a little while later, a few months after you come back, you almost kind of look back and go, did this really happen?
More on the people who choose to risk life and limb cheating death next week at the same time. Coming up, Lost Worlds, digging by the book.